Order. After a moment of silence, I ask Mr. Masters to lead us in a pledge.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flags of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I don't think we just approved it. It's not a meeting. Do I? We've talked about that 2 or 3 times.
Is everybody in here? Is
Everybody but David Hammond.
Is he gonna be?
He's coming.
If you don't know.
Okay. Thank everybody for coming to the workshop. We'd like to move Dr. Flannery, number 7 to number 1 since Mr. Hale's got to go to the county commission meeting.
Sure.
It's all right. Mr. Hale?
Yeah.
It's all you.
Okay, are we putting it up on the screen in here or no?
I don't know.
We sure can.
We sure can.
If not, I do not have paper copies.
You have to look at it here, on your computer.
Oh yeah, you can use your computer.
So are you, is it gonna be on this screen, Carol, or?
We've got it here and
over
here.
Here on this one? Is it this first one right here?
Can you go out there with it? Whatever Brad's doing, can it go there?
Which document is it, Brad? Is it the first one?
So go to the finance section.
Already there, Brad.
Are you on BOE Connect?
She's
I
already there.
know.
She just needs to know
Okay.
Which one is it?
So we'll start with number 2. Well, you can go pull up number 1. That's easy to overview, but everybody knows what overview is.
I want to see it's on the wrong one.
Oh, on the wrong computer.
Sorry. Make sure that's
So this is pretty straightforward tonight. It's just really your general federal fund and dietary. There's no other items that I have on here unless Dr. Flannery has anything. So go ahead and go to item number 2, or document 2. On your revenue analysis. And she'll have to play with that and blow it up a little, but I'll give you the high points on this. Revenue for January 2021 was $7,290,986. That's $382,000 more than January of last year. Which a couple of things that stand out is number 1 on the sales tax, we got $131,000 more in sales tax this January versus last January, so that is an actual increase. BEP, $108,000 more. That is just an increase in actual funding. For community service child fees, the SACC, we're still getting some catch up from the state on reimbursements, so that was $87,000 more than January of last year. And then we had a few grants. The Coordinated School Health and the Family Resource Center grant came in at about $128,000. That's just timing. That's not additional new funding. That was the same as last year. But that's your overall high level overview as far as.
Question.
Let me ask you on page 1 right there, that damages recovered from individuals.
Yes.
Why is it so high?
On the, let me find that one here. I'm familiar with what you're talking about.
44,560?
Yeah. 44,560. So you are looking at your zero collected this month, but the fiscal year to date shows was, for last year was 297. That was that settlement that the school got, E-rate. Multiple systems got it, and that was just our portion, and that came in last year. And when I spoke with the auditors, they said that's the best line we could come up with to put it in that made sense. So that's where I stuck it. While it does say damages recovered from an individual, that's just kind of the one that made the most sense. So
Okay.
they didn't tell me to move it at the end of the audit last year, so they ended up being okay with
Okay.
it going there. But yes, that was for FY. Anything else before we jump into the next document?
Is the, go up 2 or 3 lines, child care fees, I guess, for up 150,000, I don't.
That's the school-age childcare.
Right.
So that's catch up from the state, from reimbursements that they didn't get in. We didn't know it was all coming. Cindy Hayes can give us some more details on that, but we didn't know at the end of FY '20 what we were going to get, but some of those fees from COVID have been coming in still.
Would it be possible, since, last year we put some money in to start school-age childcare at Boone's Creek? Of course, we had COVID hit us. But it would be nice if, Brad, if you and Cindy could get together and, put us together an operating schedule, if you will, of how we're doing at these different sites on school-age childcare in terms of revenue and what it's costing us to provide that service.
Yeah, on a per site basis is what you're talking about.
I mean, that's what I'd like to see. I don't, if any of the rest of the,
Because we put 340 to start that, didn't we, Ms. Hayes? Didn't we put 340,000 to start that in Boone's Creek 2 years ago?
I don't
Seemed like I
think it's
remember.
quite that high, but
I didn't think, I thought it was about 200,000.
yeah, I was thinking 150 to 200, but I'll
Yeah.
have to relook at that.
fixed cost
But,
and then operational cost.
yeah, the biggest expense was the labor that people there.
Started.
But I was thinking of pre-K.
Yeah, pre, well, that's another
That's
issue.
what I was thinking of, was pre-K.
Pre-K, we should have, would we have some money left out of pre-K that, were we starting? Is that what you're thinking of, Mitch, or you?
Well, I mean, that's where I understand, that's where I understood that revenue was coming from, that we were, when we started the pre-K program at Boone's Creek, school-age childcare, that revenue, whatever we charged for that, and we did charge for some of them, I think, was flowing back into this 43,581 account.
Yeah.
You have two different things, so I'm not sure which one you're talking about. We have a pre-K tuition-based service that only serves 10 children. And then the school-age childcare, that is the whole, all grade levels. So that is something separate from the pre-K program.
Okay, so we only have one fee-based pre-K program at Boone's Creek,
Boone's Creek.
and it has 10 kids in it.
Okay. If I remember correctly, we were shooting for 20 to kind of come out breaking even on that.
About 17.
17,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because didn't we need an assistant over, do we have an assistant now, or do you have to have one over 10?
Over 10.
Yeah, and that pre-K, when Mitch goes in 43517, that's where we'll stick the Boone's
Oh,
Creek.
tuition, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, we'll go to document 3, which is just the sales tax, and you can blow that up a little bit. And that just shows you from, I've already stated the amount, but scroll down just a little, not much, okay. Yeah, so you can see right here, 131,000 more than last year. This is significant. We're right now $737,000 better for 7 months than we were last year. So that's where I'm saying, when we get ready to do our budget, and I will take this to the full commission if need be, I'm going to look at the last 12 months of actual payments that we've received, because we're going to probably exceed our budget this year by $1 million, maybe 1.2 million. So we're going to need the county commission to up our budgeted sales tax revenue. And I'll be taking them actual data if there's any pushback on that. That's going to warrant definitely an increase in budget this year for that. So we'll go ahead and go to document 4. And this is just the narrative. We've cut this down, of course, compared to what it used to be, but certainly can go into greater detail. At the very top is just a recap of the revenue that I won't really go back over. We've stated those numbers already, being 382,000 more in revenue this January. There's the BET, the community fees, and then the timing of the grants. Those 3 items are your main reasons for the increase in revenue. The 578,000 is the university school payment. There was higher revenue from sales tax and property tax. So that's why that amount goes up in proportion, much higher this month. So the in-service staff development, you can see 13,685 for, I believe it's pronounced that NEAT, which is virtual conference registration. And then 18,000 for CTE platform renewals, and the schools are listed there, those 5 or 6 schools. And then you have key items in the 72,610, 499. That's operation of, that's a maintenance category, not operation of the plant, but operation of the plant there, those 2 items you see. And then we have the actual maintenance category of 72,620. Gray Elementary had a $13,000 repair. It's a cooling tower. They payable to Hawthorne Mechanical. And then the other supplies, and those in this one, 72,624.99, those are not assigned to a specific school. That's maintenance for stock purposes mainly. You can see the electrical, the HVAC system, plumbing, general maintenance, and whiteboards there. And then infield soil mix there as well. When we get to the expense report, I'll take you to the maintenance section where you can see the breakdown of the utilities there. So this one, this administrative equipment, that was a Safe Schools grant for 12 two-way radios. And then transportation equipment, that was a prior approval a few months back for a vehicle purchase, and that invoice just now made it to us, so we paid that out for a 2021 Silverado 4x4. So there is your overall expense summary, $5,965,000 compared to $6,266,000 last January. So I kind of like to see our revenue up from what it was and expenses down. That doesn't happen very often, but the reason for the higher expenses last year, as you can see, 194 less in that 72,627.01, and that was a purchase for the new chiller that was replaced last year that hit the books in January. So we didn't have that expense this year for 195,000. Then 160,000. We had a prior year expense in dietary health insurance. It wasn't really an expense, it wasn't being captured, so we caught up and got it captured, working with state auditors on that. So, but as far as accounting goes, it hit the expense reports last January, where that amount hit this January. So that's an overall summary of the overall narrative and expense. So before we go forward, any questions? Okay, we'll go to the next document. Number 5 is the payables report. This has been out there since Friday, so I can certainly, if you've looked ahead and have any questions, I'll give you a moment to ask those. If not, and there's no questions, we'll go to the expense report. But this is just a general fund payables report.
So go to the next document?
As long as there's no more questions. Hearing
We're
none,
good.
we'll go to the next document unless somebody has one. So on the expense report, I'll take you to the maintenance section where we have the utilities broken down. There's been some questions on that before, so I'll just take you to that page once it's
All the way
up.
at the bottom.
Sorry.
Oh, you're on. You keep blowing it up like that, we'll wait on you.
Yeah.
It is fun.
Where did you read it from? Right there?
Yeah.
Number 6, is that where I was headed?
So let's jump ahead somewhere to around, let's go to page 15. We're going to be close at that point, but
Here's the page number 5.
yeah, I don't know if you can click up here and just type in 15. That might jump you there quicker.
Custodial supplies, is that where you're heading, Brad?
Into that section, yeah, that'll be one of the main sections. And I was guessing at 15 we're going to be close, yeah. So this is 72,610, so operation of the plant. Back up one page. So this is where you can see, when you see a repeat, you'll see the school names. There's multiple expense lines we've done this to. We went in much greater detail than the state has told us to. So here we go, janitorial. Go up one more. We're in janitorial services. This is part of that approximately $840,000 janitorial contract we have. But each school is broken down. Let's see, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, scroll on that, like, probably page 3,
Yeah, probably the next page is where
probably
that'll
page
start.
13 or something.
And, okay, right here.
840.
So this starts right here at 72,610, 328. So this is the main line where the budgeted dollars are, you can see 840,000. So all these lines below that with the same number flow into that 840. So we can go ahead and go to the next page. You'll notice Asbury's here, it's not included in that contract, so that's why there's a $0
Oh,
there.
okay.
So go ahead to the next page.
So does Asbury get any janitorial services?
Not on this contract. Bill,
We do
do
that.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Asbury
In-service,
does-
it's
we
in-
do
in-house.
in-house as far as janitorial
It's all
services.
in-house?
Yeah,
It's all in-house?
Yes, sir. Asbury, Midway, this place, and Gray,
right.
and Lamar.
So you can see over here is your breakdown for each school. Obviously, we wouldn't go through all these unless you want to, but you can look back yourselves and see this and keep going forward. Here's your disposal fees, and each school's broken down. There's just minimal dollars here for the ones that it applies to. Custodial supplies, so you can see a lot of these are zero, but you can see when it does apply, we're coding it there. Electricity, this is one. So up here in this main electricity one, your old Boones Creek Middle School will go in there, your old Boones Creek Elementary School will go in there. Anything you don't see broken down goes here. So we can produce that if y'all desire out of finance, but here is your schools, here is your monthly amount, here's your yearly amount up there. And you can see how that goes. And then you got natural gas, and then water and sewer after that, broken down the same way. So this started on about page 13, we're on page 16 now, so that's where you can go back and review those as well. That was the main thing I was going to show you on the
Thank you.
on those.
So is there any action necessary for, we're just going over this? Nothing to add to the agenda, just,
We have to approve it.
And then it'll roll into the consent agenda and
Okay.
rock and roll on.
All right, good
Did
deal.
you have anything else, Brad, on?
No, not on the general fund. This is just the balance sheet that she's looking at. It's pretty self-explanatory. Notice our cash with trustee will go up this time of year because the property tax doesn't come in equally every month. We get large hits of that. So roughly when we get to May and June, we'll have a deficit of about $8 million. So that's why you'll see that it's a normal cycle. You know, we'll want that fund balance to get up there 16, 17 million, or we'll take more if we get more, because it's going to take about an $8 million hit or more come May and June. And the next document, we'll go to the one titled Federal Fund Payables, which should be document 8. There you go. And this will probably be the only one we'll look at with federal project, unless the board wants to look at the others.
Is that right?
Yes, yeah, you can blow this one up. Some of the key items here is the first one, Kagan Professionals. It's an amount of $3,799. That was professional development training. That's a training fee, and at Westview is the school that I have that applied to. And of course, all this is paid by grants, so fully reimbursed. Next, the CDW items. You have an 1832, that was 8 Chromebooks for the Stepping Stone Academy. The next one, Unbound Digital, for $29,999, 25 toners, CTE, David Crockett High School. And there's probably more than toners there, but that's what I have in the notes right here. It was CTE for David Crockett. Salon Equipment Solutions, 1134, that was 10 material carts, Daniel Boone High School, CTE Cosmetology. And then there's a Jacob Adkins. This is a Title II reimbursement. ESL is a reimbursement for an ESL endorsement, 1992. And then we have Economy Beauty Supplies, 2,500. That was 25 dryers. I would assume that's, well, probably some type of thing you put on your head, I guess. 25 dryers, Daniel Boone High School, 16 cosmetology. Then Gov Connection, 3778, that's 65 webcams for David Crockett High School. Then Angela Greenwell, this is Title II reimbursement. It was an ESL endorsement reimbursement for 2055. That's other than that, everything's pretty straightforward with federal projects in January. Unless, Jerry, did you have anything out of the ordinary? Or?
So while we were virtual, what is that called? The salon, that group, they were still, cosmetology, thank you. Well, they were still, having people come in and.
You know, I don't fully know that.
Yes.
Is that true, Crystal?
Yes, Ms. Evans continued to have labs for these students to acquire hours for their cosmetology
Oh,
license.
good. I just wondered, since, thank you.
You're welcome.
But that's really it for federal projects, unless the board would have any other questions. And the last item we'll pull up will be item 11. It's just a dietary overview where we look at the trends and we'll have to come clockwise. There we go. So with January, we're very close to last January on the revenue. We come in at 316. And when you go down in the graph, you'll see that almost matches January of last year. So pretty right in line with the prior year. And you can see scroll down just a little and get the graph on the screen. But you can see a normal trend where we are right, when that pulls up, we're right there.
It's too high or too low.
So it jumps around, but
You're doing all
very
right.
close to the prior
It
year.
only works in the spreadsheet right now.
And usually it matches a pretty familiar pattern unless we have some just odd. You can see the revenue spike here last year, way up here. That was when we started that meal delivery. You just got a ton of reimbursement that we didn't know we were going to get. So you can go to the next graph or the next page. This gets an expense comparison. And again, notice how tight this is in January, the last 3 years. Very close. So no surprises, right in line with where it was on the prior year. And you can see it's following a very predictable pattern here, very similar, a little bit of variance. The last one's the fund balance page with the fund balance right off the trustee report. So this would be unreconciled amount. Fund balance continues. Look at the prior year. Now, of course, right here, the last 2 months, the fund balance really jumped up there, and we've held that in Dietary. Here at just under 1.5 million right now, 1,484,000. And if you look at where it was back 5 years, it was negative. Scroll up just a little bit, Carol. And I'll
It
get
is
some.
hard to do.
There you go. Great. January, if you go back to FY17, negative $170,000 in the hole, so to speak. So what a turnaround that's been. All the way here to 1.14, so $1.6+ million turn in those 4 years. So Dietary, as far as the finances go, is looking, very good. Good shape.
So we're still feeding kids free too,
Every
right?
day, right up through the end of the school year.
Yeah. You think they'll continue it?
No,
You don't? I think they will.
I think it'll continue through summer.
How will we do it with the staff work through the summer?
We've had a summer feeding program for years anyway. It won't be anything different than what
Okay.
we've had.
That's all. That's all I have, unless Director or Mr. Meredith has anything else.
I do, Tommy.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring Tommy Burleson forward to talk about what questions the board may have about Boones Creek Elementary School.
Thank you. I wish I had all the answers, but I don't. We have put humidity monitoring or humidity monitors throughout that school. And normally the concrete slab will start drying out fairly quickly after you place it. We've still got humidity levels in that slab running anywhere from 85 to 98%. And the good news is we're not the only people having this problem, because it's, and you can call it whatever you want to call it. They still don't know why. But there is no water running under the slab. We cored it, we cut pieces out. It's dry under it. It's just, it's not drying out through the surface. But there's a product called Boone Dry, which is guaranteed for 20 years. It works with the adhesives that are on there. And we're going to take the book room this weekend, because we just got the stuff in here. And we're going to divide it into thirds. We're not going to do anything to 1/3. We're going to prepare it and put the bone dry product down on the middle third. And then we're going to prepare it, put the bone dry product down, wait 2 days, and put the vinyl composition towel on that part. You gotta let it dry for 2 days. And just see how it works. We're monitoring the conditions in the building. The conditions in the building are staying about the same, but it's just the floor's not drying out. Now, the good news is, in the areas where we didn't have a problem, it's not getting any worse. But it's in the areas where we had the problem, it's just kind of staying the same and not getting any better. And we've done everything we know to do to it. But this product here, by virtue of the fact that it does have a 20-year warranty, and it's not a flash in the pan company, they've been around a long time. And they do work with the adhesive manufacturers and with the tile people. So all the stuff, all the guarantees kind of work together. So if this works, the plan is to let it stay there till school is out, come in over the summer, replace it all, and then that's when your warranty on your floor starts.
Any questions?
How long would the warranty be from that point forward?
Well, this product is manufactured, this product is guaranteed for 20 years. Okay. We got to see the adhesive, all these have kind of reducing type effects to them. Okay. You know, the sliding deal. If the adhesive starts letting loose, I think the adhesive is 10 or 12 years. Okay. But this stuff is guaranteed to up to 100% relative humidity. And like I said, we got some 99, 90. The people have been in and looked at the project. And they will be here when we put the stuff down. They're technical person. It's a spray product. It's a low VOC product. All the organic content, so there's very little smell to it. It's not going to disrupt the whole school. You shouldn't be able to smell it at all.
Mr. Burleson, that what will still happen to the humidity in some of those rooms that's out of the roof?
Well, the humidity up in the room.
No, I mean in some of those classrooms it's really, really high, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you're talking about in the floor?
Yeah.
It'll just trap it in there. Okay.
So I know right now that the heat's on pretty hot. I mean, I'd say it's set on probably 75, 77.
Nothing's at 75, around 74.
Oh, it's
75.
hot. I mean, when can we bring that back down? I know we're trying to dry it. I assume that's what our plan is, but what I'm saying is between that and like the LED lights that are on outside all the time, I mean, some of these products that we're supposed to have savings because they're energy efficient, we're shooting ourselves in the foot because we're not taking advantage of some of those deals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that we can probably, after we get this down, because it's good to 100%. Okay. Once we get it down, you know, just go back to the normal, whatever. The interesting thing is that the humidity up in the classroom is about where it's supposed to be. It's just this light, and we've got penetrating probes in there. Is where it is. I mean, you lay it right on top of the slab, and it's not too bad. But you get down in it, And then once you cover it up and it starts trying to come out, that's what's popping the stuff up.
So there's no way that you could not do flooring and sand the floors down, just sand the concrete, where there's nothing to keep that moisture down, right?
Well,
It's
one of
dry
the-
lines, what's,
If you did that, it would essentially come out. But what happens is when you seal it, you're sealing that moisture back into it. This product here is made to seal it back into it. We actually have to grind the floor, okay? So it's got to be clean. So there'll be diamond bit grinders with the big dust collectors and everything out there grinding this, and you just spray the stuff on it.
All right, let me ask you a question. You're gonna go in here and you're gonna seal this room. Now, what's gonna keep it from coming back up through where the block is? You think it'll come through the
Well,
block?
the block, see, the slabs just poured to the wall. It's not.
Ain't the block sitting on the slab?
No, the block's sitting on the, except in
Sitting on the
one
footing?
area, it's sitting on the footing.
But it's still,
Well, you've got the vapor barrier comes up and turns up the wall.
okay.
So we haven't seen any, if there was problems with that, the paint would be flaking off the bottom of the wall, and we haven't had any of those issues.
Yeah.
Well, if it was gonna happen, it'd happen.
Well, you know, I went out there the other day, a while back, and I sat there and I went outside to them drains that's out there in the middle of the cafeteria on this side and this side. And you can hear water running in them drains. In that center, and there's no water running in that drain from the top of the ground. Somehow or another, you can hear it, just like a water hose laying there running.
There's water.
It's wet weather springs.
There's springs all over
Yeah.
that place up there, okay? And we've got the pipe, some of those drainage, not all of them, but some of the underground drainage system has got a perforated pipe in it just for that.
Okay.
To help drain that stuff out. So you're gonna be, you'll
And
hear
it's
water.
wet.
I mean, we could have I'd go as far to say we could have a 2-month dry spell and you go out there and hear water running through
May
it.
do
Because
it.
you're draining that whole
Yeah.
hill up through there.
Yeah.
And it was wet. I mean, there was a lot of that dirt was really, really wet.
Yeah.
That's all I've got. But we will keep you posted when it,
There's
Yes, sir.
one more, just to clarify, as far as if this is a process that we think is gonna work, what will be our guarantee from the point on when it's put down? I mean, what if in a year it doesn't work, and you start getting humidity again,
well,
or water issues?
the product is guaranteed, that's when this manufacturer's like, no.
I understand it says 20 years.
It's the same thing like a warranty on a building, okay?
Right.
The good news is Burwell's been here a long time and has got the financial wherewithal to make it right, okay?
Right.
And the key is to get it right.
That's basically what my question is. Who's gonna stand behind it and for how long, you know?
Well, the standard warranty will be, the building warranty is, your standard building warranty is 1 year, okay? Individual products have longer, different things, like your HVAC system, compressors and stuff have longer life sometimes, okay? The product to keep the moisture out has got a 20-year guarantee on it.
Right.
And that's all, that's the best you're gonna get, okay? Because if this happened, if the glue let loose 5 years from when the building was over, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what we'd do. We'd go back to the glue people and see, but unless we could determine that there was a major issue. But this, and we've researched a lot of products to try and come up with something. And this has been used successfully all over the country. And as I said, we're not the only one having these problems, or they wouldn't have to make this stuff.
yeah,
I think so. We just wanna ensure the interest. of-
Oh, I do too. I mean, it's gonna, we're gonna watch Philip will be involved when the thing's going on, and so will I. We want it to be right,
Right,
and it will be right.
yes.
Okay, it's just, we're kind of, in my experience, kind of in uncharted waters. We've never, ever had humidity in a slab just stay there. I mean, we've gone back, we've looked at all the admixtures that went into the concrete, we've looked at everything. And we don't know, we wish we did. There's a whole lot of engineers scratching their heads, I can tell you that.
But they don't think there's any way that water is trapped below the slab.
No, we cored it, we can cut the section out
Right,
and went down through there
it's dry.
and it's dry.
That's something that I wished I knew. I'd like to go deeper than what you went. How you didn't go, but what, 6 inches, 8 inches?
Well, but I mean, if you get, yeah, we went about 6 inches.
So
We went
you're
through
6
stone.
inches over here, but over here, you could have water plumb over here and it'd be wet right there. But I'd like to go deeper right there just to see where the water's
Well,
at.
you know,
How wet.
we can do that, but I mean, if the stone is dry and there's no water standing on the vapor barrier, you know, because it would
But
have
it's supposed to be plastic laid there, right?
The vapor barrier.
That's
Right.
plastic, yeah.
Okay, so when the stone's dry and the vapor barrier's dry, and the ground under it's dry, we would have to assume that there's no water coming through it.
So why is the concrete wet?
Well,
You don't know.
Well, that's why I know. I mean, that's why.
we don't know, okay? The best thing is.
That makes you think it's a bad mix of concrete or
No, the
something.
concrete tested, everything's, all that's checked out.
Yeah.
It's the sealer, we don't know if it's the sealers, because the floor was sealed.
Yeah.
If the glue somehow reacted, and because, see, the moisture tests were taken prior to, because you gotta have a certain humidity to put the floor down. And all that was checked off on. And, I mean, this is something that's never happened, we don't know. I wish I could sit here and tell you, but I don't know, but just with all of our research and stuff, trying this right here is, we determine our best shot. And we'll know pretty quickly.
Mr. Bennett? T. Holland?
Mr. Burleson, first of all, I appreciate your
Picture.
your interest in this. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to repeat back some things that I heard, just so that I can advise the board appropriately going forward. So, the ground below the slab is dry, right?
Correct. There's where we cut through the slab.
The slab itself has in some places, 85% humidity in it, right?
Yeah, that's the low.
That's the low.
Yeah.
And you have no idea where that moisture's coming from.
Nope.
And with the heat turned up the way it is, and with the cold weather that we've had, theoretically, it should have dried out that slab, right?
It should have dried it out some, correct.
So, is it safe to assume that there is some source of water that's continuing to hydrate that slab?
That's what we thought, and that's why we core drilled it, and we cannot find any source of water coming there, because everything is dry. Okay.
I understand that you can't find a source of water, but if you got the heat up, and if it's been cold and the heat's been running to dry out that slab, but if it's not drying out, is it safe to assume that something is continuing to hydrate that slab?
Not necessarily.
Okay,
It's trapped, something is, the floor was sealed, okay? Had a sealer put on it. It also had adhesive put on it, which is not, and this is one of the things we're trying to find out, which was not allowing the water or the moisture to escape from it. Then once you put the floor on it, you further encapsulate it, okay?
okay. I'm with you. So basically, it's sort of, you could have a sponge that's like wrapped in plastic wrap. The water that's in there is going to stay in there until you gradually cook it out. Okay. So it could be rehydrating, or it could just be sealed up, we don't know. I'm with you. All right, so this bone dry product that you're talking about, that's not a desiccant, is it? It's a sealant.
It's a sealant. It's a penetrating sealant.
Okay, and so basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that damp sponge and we're gonna put more plastic wrap around it so the water that's in there doesn't get out of it.
Basically, we're gonna go through, we gotta, first thing we're gonna do is grind and prepare the slab, get all of the mastic, all of the sealer, existing sealer off of it to give it a surface that will take this penetrating product.
Okay.
And then you put that on.
When we do that, the water that's in there is gonna be in there for 20 years.
Right.
All right, in terms of the integrity of that product, we've got a big old heavy building on that concrete. Does that impair the useful life of that slab?
No, it'd probably help it. But the concrete deteriorates when it dries out. Concrete doesn't deteriorate when it's moisture.
So this is something you can market down the road if it works.
Yeah, somebody's done a pretty good job of marketing it right now, but it,
Okay, all right.
hopefully it will.
All right, so I guess the big question that I think all the board members are concerned about here is, you said that the building's got a year warranty. Of course, we brought this to your attention well within the year, and y'all are working on it, and y'all are committed to keep working on that until it's fixed, right?
Right, and then once it's fixed, then that 1 year warranty, just like as a brand new building, starts over. But then you got the extension of the just bone dry product warranty, which is guaranteed, and it clearly states in there that they will replace the floor covering and everything if there is a product with it. If there's a problem with it.
Thank you for your time. I think that's probably the concern that most of the board members would have had. You know, we certainly can understand that it's a problem and it bothers you too. We just want to be sure that the building's going to be okay.
No, we'll stick with it till the building's okay. Okay.
Mr. Burley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you. Cash one real quick. I won't hold you up. After he started talking, I got to thinking. I wonder, and I was listening to what y'all was saying, so I wonder when you grind that top off, have you done that anywhere yet to see if maybe that would allow it to dry?
Not yet. That's
What
why we're
you
leaving,
said
that's why
made
we're leaving.
sense.
We're doing a third, a third, and a third.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see how that does once you cut that sealer, you know, once
We
you
will.
grind down a little bit.
We will too.
That may take,
That might do it. We
Yeah.
don't know. See, that's part of the.
yeah, that'd be interesting to know.
Well, wouldn't it be better to do it in that one classroom that's the worst?
That's where it's in the book room. This is the worst room.
Okay.
And that's the one room. Plus there are not any students in it.
108?
In it. I think it's 108.
I'm sorry.
108, is that the book room?
Yeah, one of those right
I think it's right here.
It's the
But this is the worst one.
famous one, yeah.
But there's nobody in there.
We're gonna leave that until school's out. Is that what you said?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
I mean, that's okay.
We're gonna monitor
Yeah.
it, and then as soon as school's out, if
Fix it.
this works,
Yeah,
we'll get in and fix it.
I think that'll be interesting to see.
We'll keep you posted.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, thank
Hey,
you.
nobody wants to fix any worse than that.
I guarantee it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Anything else? Anything else for Tommy about that building?
What about the LED lights that are outside? Are you working on it anywhere?
That's the first I've heard about those,
They're just on all the time. I didn't know. Somebody cut the wire or two or something. I didn't know.
It's still in the works. We're trying to trace that down. If you look at the wire tray, it looks like blue spaghetti, 2 feet wide, 4 inches thick, running through there. And we've got to find that particular wire, that piece of Cat 5 cable. And when we get it found, then we'll take that one out and replace it. And make just, it's actually deleted land. And we'll just pull a new line right there, you know, and probably pull 2 or 3 extra. But I have William Burris with Burwell is very aware of the situation. He has been in contact and coordinated the control system to meet with us out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
We won't finish Shelley, yeah, we'll go back, go back, just gonna go back.
We could go ahead and get the attorney to talk about that.
Let's just finish it
Okay.
while we're on that section. Mr. Bennett?
Yes, sir.
I think me and Dr. Flannery's talking, I think we just want, let's just finish facilities while you're here and we can just be done with that. How's that? You gonna talk about the contract?
If that's the pleasure of the board, I can.
It's all right with you guys?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so board members, I think y'all are aware that there's an offer on the old Boone's Creek property. I have been in discussion with the real estate agent about trying to sharpen some terms and asking some clarifying questions about some things. The Reader's Digest version is that the offer is for $1.2 million. There's some contingencies that have been in there that I've asked about and pushed back on a little bit. One contingency was that the city would annex the property, but since the city has annexed all the way around it already, that's really not a problem. Another contingency is about the zoning. They want it zoned to B4. Everything around there is B4, so I don't think that's a problem either. I asked the agent about one of the conditions that the buyers put in there, which is that we deed them a piece of property that has no building on it. It's clean, meaning we assume the cost and the hassle of demolition. I know that that's something that the board's already bid out and is exploring, but that 1.2 assumes that if we give them clean property. I did ask what they would offer if they got the property as is, and the give on that for that would be $800,000. So it's essentially a $400,000 swing based upon whether we demolish or we let them do it. One of the terms that was in their offer was that once we sign, that we take it off the market and we don't pursue any alternative proposals. I pushed back on that and said, you know, your earnest money is refundable. If you want that to be hard earnest money, non-refundable, I can see that the board might be willing to take it off the market. But if it's not hard earnest money, you know, why would we essentially take this off the market for maybe 180 days while they do their due diligence? We had some back and forth, and they agreed to take that part of the contract out. Let's see. And the buyer's commission, they've asked us to pay the commission, which is 6%. That's basically the contract. Everything else is fairly standard. I told them that the board can't vote on this until its next meeting, which is, I think, the 4th. The offer was to expire on Friday, but the buyer's agents told me that he doesn't see a problem extending it to the 4th. So that's where we are. If there are any specific questions I have to answer now, board members want to ask me later, probably happy to put myself available.
Scott, the board entered into an agreement with Keller Williams that it also expires. Now, they're in the room right now. Ordinarily, they don't take any action in a workshop, but would it be necessary for the board to take action to extend the term of an agreement to the 4th?
Well, so this is a work session, right? This is not a business meeting.
That is true.
So, you can't take action tonight anyway. You can give me direction, I can read the room and I can infer from what you want done. But the buyer's agent told me that they didn't see any problem waiting until the 4th, which is your next business meeting. You know, right now, I guess what y'all can do is you can kick around what you want to do. What do you think about 1.2 million versus what do you think about the 800,000 as is? Oh, there's one other important. It's something that will come up. So one of the terms of the contract, really any real estate contract, is typically the seller has to represent the state of the environmental conditions on the property. And in particular, when you're talking about an old school, whether there are any old underground storage tanks. That is the thing that people want to know about. And of course, a school this age, I would just about bet you a jelly donut that there was an underground storage tank on there someplace. But I understand from the administration that nobody knows where it was or if it was removed. Is that a fair statement, Dr. Flannery?
Nobody alive knows where there's any tank buried at Boone's Creek Middle School.
Okay, and since I'm not licensed to practice the Ouija board, I'll just say we don't know.
But seemed to me like,
So the point there being, ordinarily we would represent in the contract that there are or are not. And what we've said there is, we don't know. We just don't. We can't make a representation. So the buyer would do a phase 1 environmental survey of the place. And it's possible that they would find that there's some kind of problem or some kind of leaching, in which case, that we could either negotiate remediation or they would have the right to back out of the contract. That's an important point to mention to y'all, because that is an important consideration in any kind of commercial contract like this.
All right, yes, Mr. Riddle.
I have a question. In the contract, they're asking just for demolition and no grade work, is that correct?
I think it said site ready.
Demolition?
They said demolition, but the way I inferred, I did think that it was. Hold on a second, we'll pull it up. I don't want to tell you wrong.
Didn't they also ask that the utilities be brought back within 5 feet of the boundary? Oh, yeah, it was in there. I mean, it was on here earlier, I don't know where it is now.
I'm sorry, Mr. Meredith, I can't hear you.
I said, was there a provision in there for them to also pull the utilities back within 5 feet of the boundary?
Yes, that's a relatively standard thing on a commercial. I don't know what that would cost y'all. Let's see, all right, let me find the.
It's on page 5, Scott.
Commission.
It's BC6.
Yeah, I've got it.
We've already agreed to that.
Well, we don't have a deal. We're starting all over.
No, we agreed to his one-time showing.
Yeah.
So,
We accepted it.
We accepted this.
demolish all buildings and structures and remove all debris from the property at its own expense. So, demolish and remove, nothing about grading to a particular standard.
Was our, what we sent out for bid, did it include
The
grade?
bid provides it, it'll be taken back to grade.
I wonder if that will be separate, or if we had to rebid that, because that'll be a good expense.
Yeah.
And that
Oh,
will
yeah.
save us quite a bit of money, we may make it work out by not having to do grade work.
Yep.
So. that's
Bid
a
opening
big-
is tomorrow. Maybe it'll be broken down.
We could probably rebid it, yeah. And they probably would be familiar and could rebid it fairly quickly, I would think, just to remove the
Just
grade
pull the
off.
grade work out.
I wouldn't think that would take anybody about a week or two to come back with that.
Also, the sellers indicated that these little outbuildings like the dugouts, they're not interested in that. It's just the main building they look toward.
Right.
I'm asking you, Mike, do you think the property is worth more than 1.2 after the building's demolished?
My problem is, if you take the building down, put it to grade, then you parcel it out, you're gonna have quite a bit, you're gonna spend a lot of money. Then it's according to what the user is, it's according to what the economy does,
I
right?
understand what, if we parse it out, I'm saying as a whole. your opinion, do you think it's worth more than the 1.2 after the building's gone?
As of right now, no. Now, 6 months from now, it may change. I mean, right now, vacant land is the hardest thing to move. That's the problem. Now, you put a building on it, then yeah, we can do real well.
We got one on it.
We got one
Got
on
one.
it.
A usable building. Let me back up, a usable building.
We're gonna leave it dugout.
Well, but to answer your question, Keith, right now, no. Most companies that would be interested in the vacant land that I deal with, goes to the bank to borrow the money to purchase the vacant land, will have to put 30-35% down.
Yeah.
Well, then there goes most of their cash flow. Then what, they ain't got the cash flow to make the improvements. That's where the problem's coming from. Now, if we own or finance, it might be a little different, but we're not in that position.
I just stopped in.
And Scott, my only comment I wanted to make, I think the agreement, if we did have an agreement with Keller Williams, was a 30-day.
Yes, sir.
And I think we're still within that 30 days, I think. Can we, I guess on the contract, you know, they said they'd go 8 with it gone, or as is. Why, can't we counter back?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's my thought. If, you know, after tomorrow we see the bid on demo, and then like Whitney said, if it's include grade, maybe Philip can go back and pull that grade cost out.
I think you gotta grade it. I mean, that's just gonna be a big old.
Not for them.
That's gonna be a big old hole sitting there.
That's what I'm saying, not for them.
Yeah, they didn't ask for it to be graded.
For
They said they'll give you
this
$1.2 million
particular
to
contract
build
purpose.
it.
I know, but I just believe.
But I guess my only thought is,
I
see
mean,
what the bid comes
I
in
wouldn't- I'd
tomorrow,
want it graded.
and then go from
Can't
there
go
with
with
either
it.
counter or acceptance.
So we could grade it for a little more money.
Well, I mean, we're negotiating
No,
stages
I
right
can't
now.
give no
I mean,
more.
Hey, Scott,
They
is
pay
there,
more money.
is there any way to, or Mr.
I'd
Yeah,
say
I
let them
mean-
have it at 1.2 and we walk away from it.
Yes, Mr. Meredith.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes, sir.
They cut
what's,
down.
what's their due diligence period and their period to get their financing in place and whatnot? Were there a number of days that they had to do that?
Let's see. So the first set of contingencies is 150 days. And that first set is licensing and permits, financing, and approval from prospective tenants. Let's see, annexation, and then rezoning. So that's the first set of contingencies, and that's 150 days.
So we,
The next set of contingencies is 120 days. I'm sorry, 210 days, good gracious. And that includes demo and utilities moved back to within 5 feet of the boundary. So, I mean, theoretically, if we didn't want to incur the expense of demolishing until we knew that their first set of contingencies were satisfied, we could do that.
And then you have 60 days, then you'd have 60 days to complete.
so you're saying,
Yes.
hello,
That's a year.
that's a year.
Well, but no, with the 210, I mean,
Be for
they've got
demo.
150 days for their first set of
Then add 60
contingencies.
days to it.
And
make
then
it
another
210
60
total.
days to that takes you to the 210.
I'd settle on a price, and then I'd give them 90 days to buy it or don't.
Well, that's what I was wondering,
I
if
mean,
150
that-
was
if
too
they
long.
gonna do a project there, they can afford it. I mean,
Well, we probably, I don't know, what's the,
it's not that much.
how long
money.
until the offer expires? Friday? This Friday?
The offer expires Friday, but my understanding is that, with Mr. Riddle, is that, I think I got an email from the Keller Williams gentleman a minute ago. My understanding is that they're open to continue discussing this.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a meeting to act on it
Tell him what we
until,
want, just
till the
leave it
fourth.
right
Till the fourth.
Well, we'll know more
Back and forth.
tomorrow when the bids open for demolition. We'll have a little different perspective on it. Right now, we're just shooting in the dark, so we at least need to work until we get more information now.
But did you get any feel, Mr. Bennett, for the 150 days? I mean, is that something that, as Mr. Day alluded to, could that be shortened?
I'm sorry, Mr. Meredith, I didn't hear exactly what you said.
I said that first set of contingency days, the 150 days, Mr. Day indicated his preference would be closer to 90. Do you have any feel for whether they would be open to shortening that period?
I didn't ask them that, but I certainly can explore it. You know, I think the fact that the city's already annexed all around the property and the fact that the surrounding property is B4, I think that's gonna get done quicker.
That's right.
I think for them, if I were the buyer, the apprehension I would have would be on the financing piece and on securing approval for prospective tenants.
Right, right.
Because they may have a list of people who they're going to put in, or they may not.
Right.
And right now, because we didn't discuss that, I don't know the answer to that question, but I can explore that. We can't do anything tonight anyway, so I will explore tomorrow morning with the agent what that looks like for them, how committed they are to the 150 days. Did I hear from Mr. Riddle a desire, and Mr. Day, a desire basically to get this done sooner?
Yeah, I think, you know, we either need to sell it, tear it down, or do something, but it took us forever to decide if we was gonna tear it down. I don't wanna wait 6 to 9 more months to tear it down. Either they're, you know what I mean? I've done a few of these deals, so 90 days, I think, is plenty of time to decide if you want it or you don't. That's my personal opinion.
And the only thing I'd like to do is piggyback off of it. My only thought is if they're wanting to B4 zoning, I pretty well know what B4 is included. You've got a church behind it, you got a church in front of it.
And it butts
And it
residential.
butts up against multifamily. So I just don't think they can get their due diligence done with the city of Johnson City in 90 days. To where they can give us a hardcore answer, is my only thought. Now, locals probably can, that's what I was just telling Jason, but I think Jason told me this potential buyer was out of Florida. And if he's got representation here locally, then he might can get it done, but I don't know if they can get all the answers they need in 90. You know, I propose 120, you know, or 90, and the earnest money goes hard to 120. Something of that fit, you know.
Well, that's helpful. That gives me something that I can go and talk to the agent about tomorrow.
But I don't have a clue what their intent's gonna be.
Hey, Scott,
But
Yes, sir.
on what Mike's saying, I'd take that a step further to the board. I'd go ahead, if we're gonna tear it down, I'd go ahead and tear it down. And I wouldn't wait on them, period.
that's true, I mean, yeah, I
We
agree.
just, if we're gonna tear it down, we go through, tear it down, prepare the land, and then if they wanna come with a hard offer, then they come. I
That's
mean,
what I say,
I like that idea.
let's just.
If we can afford to tear it down,
Yeah.
let's get it tore down, let's get it on grade, and then this board can decide what kind of price, you know.
cause they're gonna
We're
they
looking
want
at
it tore
six-
down either way.
That's right. We're looking at probably 6 months before we ever know anything,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, if we go
Maybe,
by
who
their
knows?
offer, I mean, we can counter back their offer on anything we want. But I still like demoing, but I would like to see the cost of demo and grade.
See what it is. We'll know tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't do no, I don't think I would ask Mr. Bennett to do anything until,
And I would
I
extend
wouldn't
nothing.
wait, you know what I'm saying, waste your time. As far as I'm concerned, to me.
Well,
Bill,
Mr.
how many
Fleetwood,
bids we got
this
on-
is yours. I work for you.
Got one so far.
Is that
And
all?
more information's probably
I
better
expect it to
than
come in
less.
tomorrow. Got 3 bidders, I think.
I'm sorry, I talked over someone, I apologize.
I'm sorry,
No, you go right.
It's all right. Philip was saying he had one quote and a couple more coming in.
Okay, so I think more information is better than less. The board's gonna get the bids tomorrow on the demo and grade. Presumably, y'all will decide on March 4 whether to whether to go forward or not, right?
That would be the plan.
If we plan on
Yeah.
tearing it down, yeah.
Sure. So how about this? How about, I circle back, we can't vote on this proposal tonight, but if they'll extend it, we can certainly vote on it on the 4th. But what I'll do is I'll go back to the buyer's agent and I will propose, I'll float some of the concerns that the board has had about a desire to get this done a little bit sooner rather than a little bit later. And if they want to give us a revised proposal in view of that, great. And if not, then maybe by the 4th, we'll be in a position to make a counter offer.
I still think we need to counter.
Does that make sense, Mr. Fleeter?
Sounds great.
I've got my marching orders, I'll get to work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate you.
See you, Scott.
Are we done with him?
Do y'all need me for anything else? I'm happy to stick around.
Shoot, you might as well. No.
No.
Let me rephrase that. Do you need me for anything else?
I don't think so. We got Dr. Flannery.
Well, I'll be accessible by cell phone. If you do need me, just give me a holler. Otherwise, I'm gonna go get some dinner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
All right.
Real good.
You want to finish director's report or go back and finish your
Got
still?
some stuff up here.
Let's just let Dr. Flannery go ahead.
Update on snow days. I think Mrs. Buchanan wanted that. Was that not true?
Correct.
I'm not sure what she wanted there. I can tell you that we scheduled 13 snow days and we've used 6 of them. Anybody have any questions?
No,
So
sir.
we got 7 left.
Yeah.
good
Except
at
for
math.
May.
Real quick.
Does that, I'm sorry, does that include the May days where they have,
Yeah.
so that's they still get
That's all in that 13, and we may lose those, we may not. There's no snow in the forecast through March the 8th. It's a just keep it.
get till.
I'd love it if we've seen our last snow day for the year.
Will you implement those 7 kind of like you did last year
If
if we don't use them, of course?
we've already used January the 4th and February the 15th, we've got, I hate this to get out, but we've got them scheduled for April the 5th, May the 10th, May the 14th, and May the 17th. And if we don't have any more snow, those will be student vacation days. But by law, the teachers have to go to work. So that's basically the report. And it's no different than what we've been doing for the last 35 years. All right, items to be declared a surplus, Mr. Chairman. I understand there's going to be a big list. I'm requesting that that be an action item for the next board meeting.
All right.
And that takes us to the director.
Yes, sir.
The EDI report is going to have to wait. We've got the individual who was training that at East Tennessee State had an illness in the family. That'll be in April. Capital projects list, the board asked Mr. Patrick and I to refine the list of project proposals and return to you with recommendations. This has been done. The recommendations are in BOE Connect for the board's perusal. I recommend that you set aside time at an upcoming board meeting or perhaps a call meeting to adopt the list so that projects can be sent to HEW for funding at our earliest convenience.
Okay.
I'll pause to see if there's any will of the board, if you just want to move on.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Flannery, would it be possible to get Mr. Adams or somebody, or Dr. Adams, to put together a list? I mean, we ought to know what buses we're going to retire in 21, 22. We've got $950,000 in here.
Yep.
And so, you know, it shouldn't be rocket science to figure out which buses are rolling off of the system.
You're correct.
So it'd be really, I think it'd be beneficial for the board to see what those buses are and what those costs are going to be, so.
We'll start the ball rolling on that tomorrow.
And if we're doing propane or diesel or
Electric.
electric.
Well, that's propane. Mr. Flainer.
With that capital projects list, we're gonna approve that on the 4th.
Or rearrange it.
We called a separate meeting, Fred. Would we not be beneficial to call a separate meeting to revisit that since we have more information?
How about we do it March 1st?
Yeah, I like that idea.
Great.
Now give us
Alright,
more
that's
time to look it over.
I really don't. No.
Well, we're gonna have a meeting anyway, and it probably ain't gonna take too awful long.
Never does.
No, I can't imagine it taking that long.
10 minutes.
Do we add that to our March 1st, Dr. Flannery?
That's up to you. You take the word, we'll put it on.
We got enough time. Are y'all okay with that? Everybody
I
pick-
thought we was picking a director on March 1st, or we was getting down to the final two.
Well, we was.
Is that,
I mean, if we can't do it, we just don't do it that night, but can we not put it on
I
there
don't
just in
care.
case?
I mean, that's fine, but
Is that, I've never done that before, but I mean, can we not put it on there and then if we just run out of time,
Put anything you want to on any agenda you want
at least
to.
it's on there. Let's do it, and if we got time at the end, we'll do it.
You're not under a big time crunch for capital projects, but it would be good to have that hand in glove with your general budget.
Yeah.
When it goes down to the county, to the courthouse.
How do y'all feel?
What time do you want that meeting?
About,
You wanna do it next Monday?
I
If we
mean,
got time?
We could look at it. I mean, when's the school's budget due to the county?
May 1st.
Right, May 1st.
Or you wanna wait till later time?
I'm fine with doing it whenever y'all want to, but I would like to see these TBDs evaporate and we get a dollar amount in there. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff in here. We know we need to do it, but we ought to take some effort and figure out what do we think it's gonna cost us. We know what. But I don't care on the day, whenever y'all want to.
We got till when? May 1st.
Truth be told, you don't have to do it, but you've got $6.1 million laying down there to spend.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to get your hands on that money because of the process the commission goes through to turn it into a resolution.
Well, let's get through our search and then schedule it. We got a little time.
You've
we
got a
do,
little time.
and, you know, I'm gonna say this. I kinda like to see us think about, everybody sitting here is strong on CTE. And we're kinda short on space at Boone for CTE space. And I'm wondering if we couldn't squeeze a little money and build a building over there for CTE, add to it or something.
Well,
You know, because I talked to Crystal and, you know, that maybe the area there behind the greenhouse, if we could build something right there.
won't we let Crystal bring a plan on what she needs and why she needs it, and then we can,
Well, that needs to be part of these capital projects. I mean, now, that's just,
if she's got time to put that together, I mean,
By when?
Tomorrow.
Monday.
It's just 6:15.
Yeah, she get done tonight.
Can we get a list of all the classes we have CTE wise at each high school? Because they're not the same. And I understand that because some of it, you know, we have two different things, but
We can get that out of our school.
Okay.
Chris will be glad to do that first
I
thing.
already have a list, I can send it to you right now.
Yeah, what about the furniture for Jonesboro? I meant to ask it to, glad you brought that up, Mitch. It's not on the capital projects, how was
For
we
the
going?
new school,
Yes, sir.
what's supposed to happen under the interlocal agreement is when you sell property like Old Boones Creek Middle, is that go into fund balance and then you use that. And we figure 800,000 will probably do it.
So I thought it was 640s what we give out there at Boone's Creek. We're thinking 8?
Well,
Could
that's,
be
that
more.
school's 5 years hence from the opening of Boones Creek.
So the plan is to buy the furnishings from our fund balance?
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got to sell Boones Creek Middle, you've got to sell a bunch of property, and the idea was that it'd go in your fund balance, and that's where it's gonna come from anyway.
Okay.
And 800,000 is just an estimate based on the fact that stuff goes up, and it's a bigger school.
We'll pick a day soon, to go have that meeting, how's that?
Well, let me know, we'll show up. Next,
No, we'll just talk about Monday when we wanna have it, how's that?
Okay.
So you may not.
Well, Mitch just wants some TBDs to be, sound like there's some hints in there of what we need to do before we
Yeah, I
have
mean,
it,
they
so.
need to do some work. I mean,
There's
I'd
a
like,
lot of TBDs.
Yeah, so it sounds like we're not ready for that, if that's what we want to see.
moving on.
Yes, sir.
All
please.
right, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that you put a possible adjustment to the school operation protocol as an action item on the next agenda, primarily because the mayor has withdrawn or rescinded the mask mandate for Washington County. Give the board an opportunity to decide if you want to do anything with that, if you want to look at perhaps a potential virtual day for the high schools, and anything else the board might want to do vis-a-vis school operations under the pandemic.
Anybody? Yes,
I got a
sir.
question, Dr. Flannery, on the, since there's bus problems, getting buses hauled, you know, picking kids up, we're short of some or whatever, we're having trouble getting those filled. If a student can't have a ride to school because of a bus problem, can they be virtual that day?
Sure.
So-
And they'll be excused if they're absent.
Yeah, but they still need the instructions, so they can be virtual that day if a school, how can we keep up with that to make sure that they're not skipping the bus just so they can stay
home.
virtual?
If, that's a good question. If a child just decides, I'm not getting on the bus today,
Well, I know you got Versatrans to tell you that, you know, a certain bus, what the zone is for that. But how would we, I just had some people that have reached out that the bus wasn't available, and I didn't realize we were still having bus trouble, but we must be having trouble getting routes
Oh,
because of
yeah.
quarantines and stuff like that. But if they can't get a ride to school, obviously, you know, if mom and dad's getting up early in the morning, some of them single family homes, could they stay virtual that day?
sure.
Okay.
But we may not know until that morning, like
Well, they, yeah.
Crockett's out Wednesday because they've got 7 buses parked. And I'm gonna have to probably not shut down, but go virtual at South Central because I think all of their buses are parked. Because of
How many buses
quarantine.
they got?
Huh?
They ain't got 1 or 2, do they? 3?
Maybe 4.
Okay. So just tell them to reach out to their prospective schools
Yeah,
and
yeah.
say,
We've got the technology at home, so look, if you can't come to school, log in.
okay.
And they'll have access to a live teacher. The only students that are on the Power grad point are the ones that have signed a contract for virtual. Kids that can't get to school for whatever reason still have access to their teacher. And we just hope it gets better. And it actually did today. We dropped a bunch of quarantines today. And every time teachers go get shots, it gets a little better.
Is it?
I think Cindy had.
What's next?
Hey, I just want to make sure,
I don't see
I'm
you
following
got
what
my
we're
answer.
discussing high school or not. In the K-8 world, I didn't know if you were referencing K-8 as.
I really don't know what school that is, that 2 of them were talking about. One of them I think was Boone. The other one, I don't know that I even asked. They were the first call, but, I mean, I know it's hard to distinct whether or not they just missed the bus on purpose, you know what I'm saying? So,
The school would know.
Well, in the K-8 world, principals have been advised that the student is even quarantined for a few days, and they treat it like a sick day, so that's what I just want to make sure that I clarify, because it's really hard to keep up with these students who say, oh, I'm virtual, because these virtual teachers, they already have a set enrollment, and those kids already have access to their accounts, so to keep close tabs on where everybody is and what they're doing, what we found it would be easier that we treat it just like a sick day or a missed day. The teacher gives them the paper textbook assignments and they turn them in when they.
but they still won't be counted absent, or,
If they've missed a bus, we've never counted them.
okay.
Yeah, if it's not.
So just
their
work
fault.
out with their principals, correct? Just tell them to,
And if a kid is legitimately homesick, we're not gonna make them do anything, just like a teacher.
You were talking about the 4-day week with the high school. What would that entail? Just go back to what?
4 days of live instruction, 1 day of virtual instruction for the high schools, because, you know, with the lower grades, We have managed to carve out enough teachers to where there's a true virtual school. For the middle grades, we've adopted the grad point, but for the high schools, we've got teachers that'll have kids in class and kids at home virtually at the same time, and it's killing us.
We have had teachers, high school teachers reach out to us requesting that.
Yeah, I go way back with a bunch of them, and they have no problem calling.
Was there a preference on what day, Wednesday or Friday or not?
Friday's just
Some
a
Friday,
nice-
but
Fridays.
Friday's just about to make 4 3-day vacation in my
Mondays
brain.
and Fridays.
So Wednesday would be.
I just don't think they just need to get back to normal.
So you don't advise? Well,
What is everybody thinking about masks at this point?
I think that we need to keep wearing masks until the end of the year. I think that's what everybody, that's what everybody in the schools want.
Let us know how you feel.
Right here.
Well, I'm just telling you, I
know
wouldn't
what she
want
wants.
to, I wouldn't want to be
I just
teaching.
want her to speak.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We know what this is.
Well,
She's
I'll just put an analogy like what Dr. Kirsten said. Whenever you go bear hunting, you don't put the gun down if you know the bear is dead. Same thing here.
Yeah.
It's recommended by CDC, the Tennessee Department of Health, the Northeast Regional Health Office, that we continue to do the mitigation strategies, wear the mask, social distancing whenever we can, among the other things like hand hygiene, respiratory etiquette. But social distancing, mask wearing, that's definitely two that they really would like to adhere to strictly if we could. And we're still having to follow the Tennessee Department of Health guidelines when it comes to exclusion. So we're still having to exclude children just like and faculty, just like we did before. So if someone has one high-risk symptom, they're out for 10 days unless they can go to the doctor, get an alternate diagnosis that's acceptable, because if some are not, it has to do anything with respiratory, pulmonary, allergies, that's not acceptable for return to school criteria. If they have 2 low-risk factors, they're still out for 10 days as well. If they have 1 low risk, they're out for 24 hours, and then we reevaluate. And so if they're exposed to someone that is a positive case, if it's a non-household, it's 14 days. There are 2 alternatives. After 10 days without testing, if they're asymptomatic, they can return. Also, after day 5, if they're tested on day 6 with either PCR or antigen, and it's negative, they can return after day 7 on day 8, which ideally we don't really recommend that, because the people that we've been seeing that has been exposed to a positive case are testing positive day 6, day 7, day 8. The day, coming back after 10 days, that's not ideal, but we really don't have a problem with that. But either option we use, because the Tennessee Department of Health recommends that. So we will use either of the alternative methods. If you're a household contact, you're still 24 days. If you're a case, you're 10 days.
So you would recommend we go the rest of the year with the mask?
I would recommend yes, as well as CDC, Tennessee Department of Health, and Northeast Regional Health Office.
At least we go bear hunting, right?
There you go.
I'm just hoping that when we have our summer camps, we'll be good, because I'm hoping there are gonna be a lot of outside and a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
So let's hope that we can get through this. What?
You're making me nervous that your mask. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sitting here and Mary Beth, I love you, do anything in the world for you. But you just exposed yourself to this out here because you took that mask
I
off.
have had my second vaccine.
Well, that's wonderful. So, I think we should leave it up to the people, whatever you want to do. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. I mean, that's as fair as you can be.
Ms. Wagner, is there anything we can do to help ourselves out of these quarantined issues if both people?
Social distance, which right now, which is unpopular, and it's
Say, buddy.
they're 100%. But if they're not exposed to a person that's positive, then they don't have to be quarantined. And so that's the greatest factor right now, is being able to socially distance.
I mean, the positive cases aren't really what's hurt us, it's the ones that, is with the buses being a problem, and sometimes we're having to, having to quarantine several more, is it because we don't have assigned, and I guess this would be back to Dr. Planner or Dr. Adams,
Well,
but
there's not assigned seats, well, there's not a seating chart on the bus. Ideally, students should have an assigned seat. There's not seating charts necessarily. When they do have the seating charts, the bus driver should be focusing on the road.
Right.
You can't tell whether a kid moves seats or not. Sometimes there's some bus drivers, they're not familiar with the kids on that. We can look at videos.
I
It
just
makes it
wondered if there
difficult.
was something we could do to fix that, because I think it's knocked several bus loads out, just because after 3 days or whatever they were.
In an ideal situation, if they have a seating chart, they sit there and they're separated on the bus. And that the bus driver knows who is on the bus. Sometimes that's been an issue to where they couldn't tell us who was on the bus. And again, it's usually when there's a substitute bus driver and that's not their normal route. And so what we've had to do is see who was supposed to be on the bus, Dr. Kathy Cox. And we have to look at addresses, and then we talk with the bus driver to see what stop they actually stopped at, and we have to cross-reference that with the names and the addresses. So it can take some time to do.
Well, thank y'all for what you're doing. You all find an impossible task. Bear hunt would be a lot simpler.
Yes, it would. At this point, I think so.
Big gun, yeah.
Any other questions for me?
Bart Boone did it with a knife now.
Before we move to the next topic, and this will be popular as a skunk, if the quarantines keep rising, I will come to you at the March meeting and ask that you rescind your motion that did not allow us to use duty-free lunch.
I'm sorry, say that.
We have a waiver from the State Board of Education where we don't have to follow the duty-free lunch law. This board stopped the principals from using that. Therefore, we have to put hundreds of kids in the cafeteria at once. So
Because the teachers need to have a duty-free
principals
lunch.
must have the same length of duty-free lunch as the students do, and that's the right thing to do. But we may be in a situation to where if we're going to get a handle on quarantines, we'll have to let the principals put some of these kids back in the classrooms with their teachers, rather than putting 200 together in a room.
And again, the same problem. We will end up with people that have first and last period planning, go all day, possibly 5 or 6 hours without a scheduled break.
Like I said, it will be popular as a skunk at the
It's
pump.
not popular with me. This is just something that,
And that's due to the amount of quarantine.
So
If it gets,
I mean, if it
it dropped by
continues.
what, 60 or 70 today, so you may not ever hear me say it again. But if we get back up to 1,000, we gotta do something. That's all I want to say about that. So if you'll put it on the agenda as an action item next week, that'd be
can I?
Yes, ma'am.
So here, Mary makes one point, but this is my concern. So if we have masks on and we have the kids in the classroom with the teachers who we need to stay healthy, to run the schools, when they take their masks off, that exposes them. So I'm a little concerned about the people that we really need to be there to have school.
the teacher.
Mm.
That's the people we want to get their second shot.
I know, but a lot of them don't have that yet.
A lot of them do.
So, I mean, it's what, 20 days to take?
I can't, is it 2 weeks after the second
14
shot?
days?
You have to be 2 weeks post your second vaccine within a 3-month time period and asymptomatic for a teacher to not have to quarantine. If a teacher was in a classroom, they could make certain that they are more than 6 feet away. The ideal situation is where if they're in the cafeteria, they're facing each other. So it'd be, say, Jerry was turned around facing to me, the tables aren't that large, we're face to face. Whereas if they're in the classroom, they can all be facing the same direction. And if the cafeteria, if the classes are spread out and then you could have them every other row and facing the same direction, that would also solve that issue.
Can you, if we're gonna have them eat in the classroom, can you see if the principals can come up with people to cover those lunches and move from room to room before we have to do that?
Like who?
well,
I mean, I know
again,
that-
go ahead, I'm sorry. We are at a disadvantage because we do not have enough instructional assistants. That has happened like 4 years ago. Our previous director started eliminating instructional assistant jobs. and that's got us at a disadvantage. Now we have so many, we're overworking the ones we have, and we know they're underpaid. But that many in a trying to supervise is difficult, I'm sorry.
So, I know that Mr. Merriman had it worked out so that the teachers could leave the room, so you might get with him to see what he's done. I know he was watching classes, I know the assistant principal was watching classes, he had it figured out. I mean, he is like data man, so, spreadsheet. So, I think I think it can be done, because if Mark can do it, I think everybody else can.
And I've heard, Mr. McKee has had it worked out pretty good too.
So,
where some are eating in the class and some are eating in the cafeteria. But everybody is getting, they're covering enough to where everybody's getting a break. Now, it might not be their long 20-minute break, it could be where they're getting, but at least give them a chance to go to the bathroom, eat their lunch, which if, on the elementary world, if I'm gonna be in the classroom eating with my students, by the time I open all of their salad dressing packets, their ketchup packets for their lunch, there goes my lunch, okay. I'm sorry, I'm pretty animated about this, so I'm gonna calm down.
Can Sharon talk for a minute?
You put your mask back on.
I did, I'm sorry.
No, my only problem with it, I don't support it, but the reason I don't support it is, you know, we said we wanted mask breaks for all the kids. That's really not happening in every class, and I'm not wanting to micromanage, and the principals don't have time for it either. The only place they have to socialize is the lunchroom. And I'm not going, I mean, I'm sorry, but I used to love to socialize, so I hate to take that from one place they're socializing in the lunchroom, and they can't even pick where they sit. So I want them to be able to still have lunch and some sort of normalcy, in my opinion.
All right, let me throw this out there. It's getting warmer. Weather's gonna change. Let's take some kids outside and eat lunch.
I
Lamont?
think you really need to leave the principals to run these schools.
I
think
agree.
you're too
I
far
agree.
down in the weeds here, folks. You need to let these principals run these schools.
But can we let the principals know that it's okay?
They already do. They already let kids go outside. Anytime the weather's pretty, I mean, they do.
Not to eat lunch.
You're getting too far down the weeds on these principals, folks. They're doing their dead level best to keep these kids safe and healthy.
I didn't think they was going outside to eat lunch.
Not when it's 35 degrees.
Well, I
But when it gets
understand that.
65, you'll be surprised how many's out there.
Why don't we let the principals decide
There you go.
if they have duty-free lunch or not, and not put it on us to do it?
Right.
Let
You
the
took
principals
away-
decide at their level.
We had a, well, that's what I was gonna ask for, but I about said I'm not
That's
gonna
why
mention
we
it.
voted not to, because we already knew they had already told them it's going on.
Put them in.
But we also give Dr. Flannery the leeway to do what he had to keep schools open.
Right.
My hearing aid batteries just went bad. It's probably a good thing, so it's.
Well, you want me to go get you one?
I've got some in my pocket. Like I said, it's probably a good thing.
I'll be nice to you.
Just shout a little louder, folks. You ready to move ahead?
Bill, we're gonna go outside and eat lunch.
Mr. Chairman, an instructor at David Crockett High School has proposed adding an elective course to the school's master schedule. This requires school board approval. Crystal Fink will present the course and address any questions that you may have.
Hello. This course, it's in your BOE Connect, it's philosophy and ethics. Mr. Jordan Harris, who is our welding instructor, is also pursuing a philosophy degree at the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. And he has come up with this course with his instructors at UTK. This is an elective course that will be offered third block. It will not tie into welding at all. It's just a course that he would like to teach. Again, it is fully elective, looking at juniors and seniors. There are there's some writing, reasoning, and there'll be a competition with University of Tennessee at Knoxville for High School Ethics Bowl.
Does he have, can I talk? You good?
Yeah.
That's good. So, does that mean he don't have a class during that time of welding?
That is correct. his schedule right now, he does offer, I believe, he took on Mr. Simcox's, which was like a pipe fitting, but Mr. Harris's background is not pipe fitting. So, he's looked at a couple other options, but he's teaching like a pipe fitting course now. But next year, he's wanting to offer this course. He does not have a degree in philosophy, but University of Tennessee, because he has had some credit hours, they are okay with him offering this. And of course, we allow an instructor to teach one course out of their contact area. Yes.
Well, I noticed the title is philosophy and ethics.
Yes.
Well, ethics, can we make it required instead of elective?
I don't think we can.
Okay. But I'd like to hear from Dr. Keys as to what she thinks. I mean, you're our secondary. I mean, I look at this as more of a academic, not a CTE course. So what's your?
We've not had any approved philosophy classes from the State Department. They're not in the course catalog. They kind of sway away from that because you can get into some pretty hot topics and a lot of argument. I personally would not recommend it.
Okay. How many students? Any idea how many students would participate?
No, we've never had this course before, so we don't know. Like I said, it would be offered to juniors and seniors, and again, it does not tie into any career technical course. This was just, a course that Mr. Harris would like to.
Can't we get him some more welding students for third period?
That would be good, yeah.
Buy him some more welding rods and
Make some outdoor picnic tables.
Okay.
that needs to be an action item for the meeting.
Here's the only thing, I have to turn this in by March the 1st, and I just got it this week. This was the first time I was able to present, and I don't know if that's possible, but my deadline for submitting to the state is Monday.
We can't act on it.
It'll be okay.
I'm sorry?
It'll be okay. They'll be fine. You tell them that the board was unable to act, it'll be okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So we'll put that on our to vote on it, yea or nay. Okay?
And I think that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Let's go athletics. Spring sports
I
protocol.
really don't have nothing. The only thing I was waiting on, I don't know if Dr. Flannery's had anything updates, but kind of waiting on TSSAA to give us their regulations or considerations on spring sports.
Last thing, I actually got in touch with Bernard Childers, and the last thing they've done was December the 8th. And he just sent me that document, which we've all
We done had it, so. In the same way as summer tournament, I've talked to both ADs, they're waiting on guidelines to see if we're gonna have it or not. And I do have two things I would ask Dr. Flannery. Danny Good called me and was gonna use the old Boone Creek ball field for practice and was told not to, and I was just wondering, I thought we had gave him approval to use that.
Waiting to see if the board signs a contract for demolition. And once that happens, that place is off limits, period. So just told him, just don't let anybody get in the habit of using it.
But can't use it until that point.
I ain't got no problem with it.
Okay.
Well, no, wait a minute, I'm sorry. We no longer have liability insurance on that property. Our insurance people went out there and decided that it's, Jared, you were on there. There's a word.
He's in the back.
They're not calling it abandoned. There's a word for it, and I can't remember what it was, but they have dropped it from $10 million liability insurance to just $1 million on the property. So if somebody goes over and gets hurt, this board is exposed.
They can't sign a waiver.
And you'd have to talk to your attorney
I mean, I don't
about
know, I'm
that.
just curious.
We have not.
I mean, I don't know
so.
I don't know how adamant they are needing it. If
Oh, I
should-
guarantee you they want it.
Well, I'm sure they do, that's the reason why you asked me.
Yeah.
And I just think I'd ask, because I didn't know.
I'd hate to let anybody use it without insurance. I mean, without the board
Can we
having.
put that on action item to discuss what we just got done?
I'll just ask.
Okay.
Put that
Well,
on.
I mean,
No, I mean, we don't need to vote.
We'll get with the insurance company, we'll get the lawyer, if there's a legal way to let them use that open field, we will.
Okay.
we ain't got that action anyway. He got it.
And then the only other question I had, I remember back when we moved Boone Street School,
Thought about that.
there was a trophy or two in there that was from where they won the state back when Boone Street was a high school. Any idea where the trophy's at?
Sitting in the floor of my office, locked up every night, because I knew if I lost that thing, I'd have to leave Washington County.
Is there any plans to put a
Yes,
trophy cabinet at
The
Boone
trophy
Street? or-
case is under construction at Daniel Boone, we just hadn't had enough student help to finish it. 'Cause we
Okay.
got- But they took the lumber out of the gym at Boone's Creek, and they're not even taking the paint off. They're gonna use the blue and black, just old paint, and they're building a case at that, and they have, access to the glass too.
Great.
So it's,
Okay.
it's approaching, Bill.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And the other trophies are in storage, safely in storage.
Okay. Thank
What
you.
in the world is
Yeah.
going
I'm
on
good.
with your ear, Mr. Riddle?
It's an
Facilities, yes, sir. So we already went over the Boones Creek Elementary floor. Mr. Patrick, could we get a status of the bids for the ionization units?
Yeah, the Thompson and Little are still working on those, trying to put those together. It's pretty detailed, in-depth, because there's so many different units, many different schools, so many different places to put them. But they are putting that together and getting ready to put it on the street. Won't be long.
Any idea of time frame roughly?
I do not. I'd be afraid to spout out a number and be wrong.
I had a request from a board member to show the science behind the ionization unit. If you'll click play, Carol. This is pretty simple right here. This is long, by the way. I mean, it takes 6 days, so this is time lapse.
What I was gonna say, 6 days?
Yes, ma'am. This is what the technology will do for the air in your schools. It basically does to air, and I've been reading up on this, it does to air what chlorine or bromine does in a swimming pool. If it's alive, it kills it.
So this will benefit not just with COVID, but the flu and
Flu,
anything else that.
Yeah,
Cold, I mean,
anything alive.
this is not just beneficial in this pandemic, this is beneficial for the long run, is what I'm trying
Any
to
virus,
say.
any bacteria, this will kill it, this
Right,
technology kills it.
correct.
All right, did you get your answer?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Patrick, Boones Creek Elementary had turned in a checklist for some items they needed repaired. Just want to get a little update on that. please.
Yes, we completed that list about 2 days after we received it.
Fantastic. All right, sir. I think the majority of that stuff may have been floor related, so.
Some was, but there were some things that, you know, we had missed it, either it fell through the crack somewhere, but, and then a lot of, then there were some things that they evidently had found, so.
Perfect.
We take care of it, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Again, for Mr. Patrick, any update on looking into LED lights for the system and motion sensors?
Part of my update is that we've got, I don't have any electricians right now, we don't have any plumbers right now, and I'm short one labor. So we got 5 men out with COVID-related quarantine. Actually, all the 5 that I just named are actually positive with COVID. So, we've got HVAC guys doing some electrical work, and I've got some helpers and carpenters doing, say, routine light bulb changes, those sort of things, and some carpenters doing some plumbing work. I haven't been able to get anybody to get some numbers together on putting sensors in. If we do an LED system-wide lighting, we'll have to have a lighting study done of the system, so we'd like to contract that out to someone. Because you usually don't change out LEDs one-to-one with a fluorescent. You usually reduce your number of lighting, and then that takes candle foot powers on the desktop, and so we'll try to attack that when we get a few more people on board.
So we need somebody to do a lighting study. Do you know anybody that does that type of thing, or do we need to find someone?
Yes, we'll talk with Thompson Litton or any other engineer y'all want to, but usually any electrical engineer has people capable of doing lighting studies.
Can we not do that locally, like with your lighting contractors that provide the sales of the lights? You would think they would be able to do some of that?
No, they might. I'll just have to inquire.
Just a question there.
You talking about checking with local electrical
contractors or companies that
Like
sell
CD or
those.
Mesco or something like that.
American Lighting, Ferguson, just, big companies that do lighting, they may be willing to come out and tell us, hey, you need this many less lights in here. So you probably drop these by half with LEDs, I would imagine.
Probably.
But,
Mr. Day says it's getting so dark in here now, we're gonna have to light candles.
I like to paint it and change the light brighter, I can't stand it.
That was in our energy plan, but
Do we have we had any word on the Crockett Stadium?
Yes, he told me today that they finished it and they're doing a office review on it, and we should probably have that back possibly by the board meeting Thursday.
Wonderful. And then we got one other item, the shed at Boone's Creek Middle. That one I don't know.
I don't know what shed.
I know that one. Mr. Merriman is needing a shed for storage for baseball, softball, soccer, all the outside sports. If you don't know, we have a trailer down there, and the trailer took a joyride this summer around Bumpus Cove and around and up and down, and we finally found it and brought it home. So we need something that's not mobile, and there's a shed at Boone's Creek that's in great condition, and he wanted to know if it was possible to move that shed to the north.
That's a Philip Patrick question, I don't think.
I don't know what kind of shape that shed is.
It's in good shape. Mark looked at it.
I was actually in it the other day, and great is not how I describe it.
Okay, well, he loved it. He was super excited about it.
So it's a matter of opinion.
But isn't that where they keep the baseball and softball stuff because they were playing up there? I don't know.
It's empty.
Well, there's actually two of them over there, and it's where they kept yard, like push mowers and stuff. If it could be moved and not fall all to pieces, as far as I'm concerned, Mark's welcome to it.
Okay, well, he would like to have it. And also, while we're on the Lamar subject, have you had a chance to look at the awnings?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't understand you.
Have you had an opportunity to look at the awnings?
Yes, we have got, we're getting pricing on that, and we're gonna try to secure a purchase order to replace the awning for the buses pick up and drop off, the bigger awning. It's around $9,000 or $10,000.
Are you talking about the one by the library or the ones by?
I would call it by the library, looking at the building on the right.
Okay, thank
It's,
you.
in fact, there's holes in there.
I know, that's where I picked up at.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, had a phone call today of somebody that dropped off some hay to Daniel Boone to their field house where they keep their stuff, I guess. I don't know nothing about it. It's been a long time since I've been back there. But I guess where they've done the fence repair, and I don't know, I assume this is facilities, but where I guess they've done the fence repair on that side, it's horrible to get back in there. Is there a plan to, today wasn't a good day to go out there and try to do any kind of field work, but need some gravel, I assume. He said it was a mud hole back there. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Imagine that they've not been able to do any dirt work or grade where that's at, other
No,
than digging it out and doing what they've done so far. So,
I'm not familiar with where you're speaking of. Is it beside our OTC building?
Yeah.
Down at Daniel Boone, where we had to put the swale in to keep the water out of our OTC building, correct?
Yeah.
And we've got that rocked, but right at the end of it, of course, is where the grass is and the ag program.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we plan to do something with that when we lose this 20 inches of rain that's fell in the past 2 weeks. But yeah, we got plans
Just
for
keep
that.
that spray out there, gonna do it on that floor, Boone's Creek, it'll dry up.
Bone dry.
Put some boat dry on
I
it.
don't know what it's called, nylon, whatever. But, yeah, we've got a big mound of dirt we've gotta move, and we've got a place to put it, give it away and get rid of it real close to the school, so, as soon as it dries up, we're gonna do some work out there.
They just having a hard time, I reckon, get out there to the
I'm
field
sure
and
she
drop
is.
off hay and stuff like
I'm sure
that.
she is.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is that it?
We have issued, let me give you a little update on a couple of things, and I'm gonna be out of your way. We've issued the purchase orders for bleacher replacement at Boone, Crockett, and Gray. We will be receiving bids on the gray brick next week, and also on the Boone roof next week. Got a couple contractors call Mr. Hutton, the architect for the gray brick repair. We wanted to set a schedule for the summer to complete that job, but every contractor that's called him said it's not possible. So we may have to let them bid that and giving us an anticipated date of completion. And we're not sure about liquidated damages. I'll do what this board wants to do, but usually liquidated damages get figured in, put on the front of the bid, so. Y'all think about that a little bit.
Do you
But
have-
that is all I have.
Philip, do you have a suggestion on that, or should we cross that bridge a little later? I mean, I know what you're saying, you can't really hold them to nothing, you don't know when they're starting.
Right.
Could
and
we
it's-
put it as a, in other words, maybe put it on there as, okay, we're not gonna start till July and it starts on the start date?
That would be, they'll give us a number of days to complete.
From when
I
it
want to-
starts?
You're right. I would like to start as soon as school's out. Let's use all the summer we can, and we'll not go into the school year too far.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about this project, and if anybody's seen parts of it, it's a little labor intense, and it's something masons don't commonly do. I mean, you're gonna be cutting out one mortar joint every 4 or 5 courses, try to get that rusty piece of rebar, re-steel out of there, and then put what they call a helicoil back in it. You have to drill the wall back into the main masonry wall, the concrete block wall, and then drive the helicoil in there, and then point it back with mortar. Then clean it off, and then seal it off. So it's, in every mason we had out there to look at the job said, well, we've never heard of this before, but we're gonna give it a shot, so that's sort of where we are.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask one more thing. Back to that lighting. I've had done process that. If we're gonna do that, thinking of our past conversations, we really would need to hire an architect to do that, because you couldn't really have one lighting company do it, because you don't know that you're gonna buy the lighting from them. So we really need to have an architect or Holston Engineering or somebody like that just do the study, I think, and then you're gonna bid out the work, labor and materials with the speculated light fixtures for every room in the county, and then let the architect hire whoever's gonna do that. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. I was just thinking of.
I thought the
speeding
same
up
thing.
process is the only thing I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Just like this ionizzation's been going on for months. We know we need it, we've got the money, and we're still doing a study to get it in the schools,
Well-
which needs to be in there today.
Well, the reason I said that to say this, if we're serious about it, let's put an action item on the board meeting next week, and let's vote to hire an architect or an engineer to do it.
Right.
So, I mean, whatever, if anybody feels comfortable with that, we'll put it as an action item and let's move. I like to move, let's move. We're gonna do it. So can we do that? We'll add that as an action item. Okay. All right, anything else? Now, do we have we have the ionizers handled, correct? Is that what we said?
Yeah, they're drawing that specification up and put it on the street. Yes,
We don't
sir.
need to do anything on that yet,
Yeah.
but we do need to add the electrical lighting. So we'll
All
vote on that.
schools or one school?
If it was me, if it's up to me, I'd make a motion that we, when we get to the meeting, that we hire a architect or engineer to do a study, and then when we get the study back, I think you either gotta be committed, either you're gonna do it or you're not gonna do it, and I wouldn't worry about a school, I'd hire somebody and do the system. Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
I mean,
Right.
I agree, but our two high schools need it
yeah,
now. Yesterday, they really need the
First two
LED.
you can.
yeah.
You could prioritize your list of how you did it,
Once you get it.
once you get it.
I think I'd let them do the whole system, then we'll decide how much we can do and what we're gonna do.
That'd be good.
That's
They'll have
fair.
it broke down per school, I assume, whoever does the study,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. All
Well,
right.
that would be something that this board could say, break it down per school, and how much it's gonna cost per school, because we don't know if we got enough funding or not.
Well, they'll have to, Keith, and then you vote on, okay, we wanna try to do $1 million worth or whatever we're gonna
Do
do.
so many schools
Yeah.
this year and so many.
When they do
next
this
year.
higher study, then we'll have them break it down per school, like we have on the ionization. It's broken down so y'all know exactly what's been spent on each school for ionization.
And maybe Philip, once we get to that point, he can come back and say, here's my recommendations, these are the 5 schools I do right now, and so on, or something like
Five
that.
schools you all wanna do, doesn't
Yeah.
matter to me.
Whichever one's the worst. Okay, let's move on then. Sorry. So is that it on facilities?
That's it.
Rick?
Wait, I have a question. When we're talking about doing the ionization for the schools, are we including Asbury, Midway, and this office?
I have no idea.
We're
You're not?
including,
I hope not.
I didn't.
We're closing.
Are we including Jonesboro Elementary?
Probably not right now.
Because that's the only building we're keeping out of this deal. So-
If it is, we'll exclude them and then we won't vote to pay for those. Right?
Well, I just felt like that the Jonesboro Elementary was the one that we would do versus,
Well, and if we get to it and we didn't, we can add it, or if we did the others, we can take them out.
okay.
Y'all just pay attention when the time comes, and we'll do whatever. That'll be all over that, I'm sure.
Put your mask back on.
Shut up. Okay. I'm riding with Keith tonight. Let's see, okay, we're through with finance, policy.
no, you're not.
We're not done finance?
Thanks, Scott. I
It's
thought
on my
Mr. Meredith
list.
was going to set some dates.
Mr. Meredith, you wanna do some, sorry, Ashley, give me a second. Is there something else you wanna do on policy? I'm sorry.
On
On
budget,
budget?
Yeah, I mean, under finance, I'm
no,
sorry.
I think we'll have a plan at the meeting,
Okay,
what his schedule's gonna be.
okay. We're good on that. Now can we do policy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ashley, you're back.
That was used.
I loaded detailed information for you in BOE. The state board had a meeting on February the 5th and passed an educator diversity state board policy. It's new. That policy requires LEAs to have goals, so it impacted 2 of our policies. We have not received guidance from the Tennessee Department of Ed on what that will look like, so I cannot give you details other than we have to create goals. And so in policy 1.700, TSBA sent down an updated model policy. I went through like I normally do and included anything in red that they did not include and anything in green that was new language. And inside of that policy, if we want to look at it, they've created new language that just says to set goals for educator diversity that take into consideration the diversity of the student population. And that meets the letter of the new rule from the state board. The language in red, they moved to the end of the policy, so I just moved it for you to show you that it had moved. And then they excluded the line that is in blue under students. And in meeting with Dr. Myers, she and I both believe that line should stay. And that is all for 1.700.
Thank you.
For 5.100, they added the same line to set goals for educator diversity. And then they've changed some of the language just to clarify. It doesn't change the meaning in any way.
All right,
Don't worry about it.
so we'll have those as action items as well.
I do have one more that I need to ask you to do something with.
Okay.
So, in getting guidance from the state board, and the State Department, the COVID emergency rules impacted our senior class this year too. I don't know if you remember last year, they passed rules where our juniors did not have to take the ACT test to graduate. That is still in effect for their graduating class. And so although we will strongly encourage every single one of our current seniors to take the ACT so that they have opportunities in higher ed, it is not a requirement this year due to the COVID-19 emergency rules. However, it is a requirement in our board policy. So I emailed TSBA and she said that technically you do not have to include this language in policy. You could just make a motion and waive this requirement, but I asked that you leave it in policy so that I'll remember that we made that change and I'll have that note for this class. And then when this expires, I'll bring it back to you to ask you to remove the language. But I will ask that that you all will waive first reading and pass on second, since this impacts our graduating class. And that's all I have.
So you think we need to take, I'm sorry, David. So you think we need to make the kids take the ACT?
Yes.
Can we do that?
No. We are not going to make them, but we would like for them to take it for free, because if they leave us and they decide they need it and go back, they're going to have to pay for it out of pocket. So they might as well go ahead and take it now.
Okay.
But if we have a student who's quarantined or sick with COVID and it's going to keep that kid from graduating because of this board policy, I just can't have that on my conscience.
But now the red's where you're taking it out, right?
I'm going to leave the red in there.
Oh.
I'm going to ask TSBA to put it on there so that anybody who pulls up our policy can see that just per those emergency rules, it only impacts that class with the ACT or SAT requirement. And then after this school year's over, I'll bring it back to you all and we'll just take out the red language and put that back in black.
Okay.
Just advise you guys.
Yeah.
I just, on policy 1.700, lines
Yes.
21 and 22, to develop a comprehensive program for disabled students, we are keeping that, right?
Yes, that's why it's
Okay.
included.
Mr. Irvin?
This board cannot make the students take the ACT?
If you leave that language in there and do not go with the recommendation, yes, we would
Yes,
deny a
we can.
diploma.
So you need a motion Thursday night that we say all,
We waive it for this class.
no, we're not waiving it. We're gonna make them take it.
What if the state won't pick up the tab for it? You may be on
How much are we talking?
millions. It's like $45, $50 each.
I think it needs to be optional, Keith, if they,
Well.
I mean,
For this year, the rule says we have to.
Mr. Meredith.
The COVID-19 emergency rules waived it for our graduating class
Right.
this year, because last year it impacted taking it. This year, they've been impacted with taking it. And so the recommendation is to waive it for this year. And then you all would pass that through policy, not necessarily make a motion to suspend it. Mr. Meredith?
What if we make kids take it just because they have to check the box to get their diploma, then we're gonna have a fair amount of scores that are terrible. What does that do to our overall rating when we start benchmarking us against other systems?
All of our seniors, well, most of them have already taken it. We've already done our senior retake. But if we had a student who missed it during the junior year, they could not take it in the summer. Everything was shut down. ACT sites were shut down. We were not offering it, so it was difficult. Then our seniors, let's say they were quarantined during the senior ACT retake in October at our high schools, they didn't get to take it. Now here they sit without meeting the ACT requirement. We're talking about maybe a handful of students. That's it.
Are we offering it to them though, still, if they want to
They
take
can
it?
take it in March with our juniors if they want to. We would encourage them to do so, but I don't think it's a good idea to make them. We don't know, I mean, what if they're fully virtual with a compromised immune system?
If they're going beyond the schooling, they probably know they need that.
Yes.
You would think they would take that. on their own initiative. So,
They have to get to college.
right. So, I don't know.
Some colleges
A
are
lot of
waiving
schools
the
have dropped it.
requirement
Oh,
for
really?
system class because of the COVID issues.
Well, I just wanted to make sure.
All right, so we need that as an action item as well.
You're recommending that we do this like this.
All right, that it? All right, kids. Tomorrow-
Wait. You need to set a time for the call meeting Monday. I don't think we have.
5 o'clock.
5.
Too late, take them outside. What time?
Jennifer, there's still only one thing
Four?
on that agenda.
Oh,
Ask Mr. Master.
As of right now.
the meeting's at 5.
Okay, I got you.
Thank you.
We'll have eats at 4.
Anything else?
That's just for the director candidates,
Yes,
right?
yeah, that's all we're gonna do. We may discuss some dates at the end of the meeting. How's that? Good?
But on the agenda is just one item.
Yeah. Good? All hearts, minds clear?
Thanks.
So just to be clear,